fabulous job on this nothing short of fabulous, on this NDAA bill. The great senior senator from the state of Rhode Island, Jack Reed, Chairman of Armed Services. And I thank him, Senator Wicker, and so many others for their great work. Well, look, let's look at what's happened. The past few weeks in the Senate have shown the power of working in a bipartisan manner. NDAA is a prime example of how Congress can work together for the American people. We have a very divided country. We have a divided Congress, but nonetheless, we were able to come together and pass a bill overwhelmingly on one of the most important issues facing America, the defense bill. And this is not alone. We came together and avoided default. I'll talk more about it in a minute, but the Appropriations Committee passed 12 bills here in the Senate. Bipartisan. No one thought we could do that. So it's a stark contrast to the House. The House ought to look to the bipartisan Senate as to how to get things done, instead of just throwing out partisan bills that have no chance of passing. Now, the NDAA is a down payment on one of the most important issues facing our country today, and that is defense. You have to go, Jack?
I'll be back, sir.
Okay, great. Jack's going to speak on the floor and then come back. There are so many good provisions in this bill in terms of helping our troops and giving them the pay raises they need, making our defense stronger. And let's not forget there were other provisions added into the bill that are really important. At the top of my list is the FEND Act on fentanyl. Fentanyl is killing us. It's a national scourge. 106,000 people died of a fentanyl overdose last year. More young people died of it than in auto crashes. It's number one. And our bill allows the president to impose sanctions on China with the use of a national emergency, and prevents China from sending the precursor drugs to Mexico, in Mexico where they're made into fentanyl and sent to the U.S., and there will be sanctions on both these countries if they don't stop. It's pretty severe medicine. We also passed great stuff on AI. As you know, we have in a bipartisan way in the Senate, we're attempting to deal with AI, and we make sure in the bill we have a lot of provisions. We have the bug bounty program, incentives for ethical hackers. We're conducting risk studies on the use of AI, and we're investing in research on the vexing issue of explainability. We've also done some really good stuff to deal with the excesses of the Chinese government, including limiting the flow of investments in advanced technology to China. Typical of the bipartisan nature, it's a Casey Cornyn amendment. And so much of this was done bipartisan. I think we have done a total of 98 amendments, 44 Democrat, 44 Republican, and the remainder bipartisan. And we had the amendment process work here as well, which is just amazing. We're sending a strong message to President Xi that we're united in our security effort. And now let me go over a few other things that we care about. And this is the future. What are we going to do when we come back in September? Well, it's going to be all hands on deck. First and foremost, we must fund the government. And as I said, today we took an incredible step forward. We have 12 appropriations bills that have been reported out of committee, a feat unheard of. I give a great deal of credit to Patty Murray and Senator Susan Collins. This is a divided country. You say our politics are divided, and yet 12 appropriations bills passed in a bipartisan way out of the committee. Incredible. We're also going to build on our history of confirming more judges to make the judicial system more reflective. It's a very high priority. And we're not stopping when we get back. I'm going to file cloture on 3 nominees, the NLRB nominee, Gwen Wilcox, and FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez, as well as the 3 Fed nominees to fill up the Fed. We're filing those tonight for immediate votes when we return. And I have very good news. It looks like we're going to confirm in one block more than a dozen ambassadors. Right now the number is 16. It may get a little higher. It may get a little lower. As you know, they were holding up the ambassadors, and we're getting able to move them. We have lots of other things we want to do when we get back. Rail safety, a very high priority. Senator Brown is relentlessly leading the charge. I spoke to his colleague in the Senate tonight, and they're working together to build up enough support. We're working very hard and making great progress on $35 insulin for everybody. That will be a high priority when we get back. The FAA bill, the Senate bill that Senator Cantwell is working on, is very close to the House bill that has passed. So I expect we'll get an FAA bill very soon. And we're making good progress on safe banking, which is, as you know, has always been a priority for me. So there's a lot to do when we get back, but we're making good progress on every one of those pieces of legislation, as well as on the the most important thing when we get back, funding the government in the appropriations process. The bill passed 86-11, and we're continuing. No one thought we would do it, but the tradition of doing it on time, doing it in a timely way, with virtually, if you watch the floor, almost no animus or acrimony, which says something. That's the leader I try to be. Number one goal, get things done for the American people. Cut costs, grow the middle class. These bills do that. Second, try to work in a bipartisan way as possible to get things done. And this Senate is an example of how bipartisanship can work. And again, let me just reiterate, because it's the contrast, the glaring contrast with the House, where the Republicans don't work in a bipartisan way and just throw stuff on the floor that they know has no chance of passing, doesn't help the American people one bit. And so I'm looking forward to this House looking to the Senate as to how to get America moving. With that, I'll answer your questions. Yes?
I understand you have a lot you want to get done when you come back in September. You touted the appropriations bills that the Senate was able to report today. The House is a different story, and there's obviously limited floor time in both the House and Senate. How concerned should Americans be at the prospect of a government shutdown?
Well, I hope there won't be a government shutdown. And, you know, there are some on the hard right in the House who want to shut down. But again, given what the Senate has done with 12 appropriations bills passed in a bipartisan way, I'm very hopeful that the House will accede to the Senate. Sort of like in the debt ceiling. Basically, the House, where while there was a lot of talk of letting us default, came over and basically came much closer to what we in the Senate wanted. Yes?
You mentioned the Senate pages on the floor.
Yes.
The situation that transpired. Can you just explain a little bit more about your understanding of that?
Yeah, well, it was just awful what happened. These are kids. They are teenagers. They come here bright-eyed, ready to learn about America, meet people from across the country, and serve their senators and serve the Senate, which they do. They're really invaluable to us. And so what that congressman did last night at midnight was just utterly despicable. And it's not even worse, but compounding the injury. He doesn't even apologize to them. What the heck is the matter with him? I'm glad that Leader McConnell and I tonight, told the pages how much we value them and that this guy was a horrible outlier. Yes?
Leader Schumer, you guys are leaving town without having made any progress on Senator Tuberville's blockade of military promotions. Do you regret not putting maybe one or two of them on the floor to try to see if that might unlock the situation?
Not one bit. This is the responsibility of the Republican Senate caucus. Leader McConnell has condemned what Tuberville has done. Deputy Leader Thune has condemned it. It's up to them. Now, I think in August, pressure is going to mount on Tuberville, and I think the Republicans are feeling that heat. As you know, I offered Tuberville, if he wanted to put his amendment on the floor, the Ernst Amendment, I'd say go ahead. So he's boxing himself into a corner.
You have no plans to put any of them on the floor?
It's the Republicans' responsibility, theirs and theirs alone. Yes?
We've heard some complaints from both senators and aides about the schedule. You have so much stuff to do. In the last 2 weeks, you were only in 3-ish days total. What was the thinking? What's the thinking in coming in on Tuesday, having late votes on Tuesday, and then leaving?
We're working all the time. Look at how much we're getting done. In the last month and a half, an NDAA bill, huge, with ramifications in many areas, 12 appropriations bills, and avoiding default. I'd say in a month and a half, that's a damn good record. Yes. Because it works. Go ahead.
We're going to also run up on a timeline for FAA reauthorization
Yes.
coming up at the end of September. How are you going to fit that in on the floor along with all of these appropriations bills?
Well, the good news is that Chairman Cantwell is really making progress on FAA, and the FAA bill that she's working towards, I think it's better than the House bill, particularly in safety and passenger protections, but it's not that different. And I think I'm very optimistic we'll get an FAA bill very soon when we return. Yes.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about your relationship with Leader McConnell and working with him on things like the NDAA, on things like Ukraine funding, on things like the appropriations bills? You fight a lot, but you
Look.
also have moments where
Yeah,
you both
look.
are humans and he's dealing with
Well, thank you for the compliment.
well, he's dealing with a medical situation, I mean, I'm just wondering what the last 24 hours between you two have been like.
Well,
You're in the
look.
same room, you talk to
Yes, and I saw him last night at the Major League Baseball owners' dinner, and I said, I'm so glad you're here. And he gave a very good speech. Look, we each defend what we think are our values. Our values are not the same. They disagree on a whole lot of things. But we know, both of us, that when we can work together, it's for the good of the country, and we found a remarkable number of important things we can work together on. And I am very, very pleased that the Republican caucus in the Senate has not gone the way of the Republican caucus in the House. Yeah, did you ask one?
No, not yet.
Okay, sorry.
Will you need a CR at the end of September, and is the plan to bring up all 12 appropriation bills individually, or more as a package?
Look, we'll have to, I've discussed that a little bit with Speaker McCarthy. I've discussed it just tonight with Susan Collins, and we're going to figure out the best way to get this done that helps cut costs, grow the middle class, and avoids a shutdown. Yes.
You mentioned some of the more extreme Republican amendments that have been included in bills like the NDAA and the House version. How do you see conference going between the Senate and House version?
Well, just look. Our Republican colleagues, by and large, did not offer any of those extreme amendments because they want to get things done. And as I said, I hope the House can follow the Senate's example. Okay? Who didn't ask one? You two. Last two.
I'll just say really quick, you listed a bunch of priorities in the letter that you sent out a couple of weeks
Yes.
ago. Which of those policy priorities might we see, I know in September you're obviously looking at appropriations as well, what priorities?
Well, as I said, we have a whole bunch we're working on. I've been working very diligently on them during this time, including $35 insulin, where we're making great bipartisan progress, including the rail bill, where we're making progress, including safe banking, where we're making progress, including FAA, where we're making progress. We're making progress on a whole lot of these, and I think you're going to find a very, very productive fall in the Senate. Last one.
So I'm not.
And I may have left one or two out. And obviously, funding the government and preventing shutdown is number one.
Do any of those rise to the level that are done? You said you're making progress, or any of them?
Well, we're close on a few of them, but you can't until you have a final you don't only have a final handshake. On a few of them, we have agreement on the concept. We've got to draft the language, and that always takes a while. Yes.
authorization for nuclear subs transfer to Australia.
Yes.
Wanted to see go through did not happen here.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And I guess when are you hoping for that to go?
Well,
through?
I think it was Ranking Member Risch who blocked it. You'll have to check me on that. But one of the Republicans blocked that part of the bill. So at least we got part of it done. The Australians are very happy, and I'm hoping we can get that done. Let me call on Senator Reid. I knew him when he was Congressman Reid. He got to Congress before I did.
I knew Congressman Schumer.
That's right. No, he got to the Senate before I did. I got to the House before he did. By 2 years? What year did you get here? 82?
I got in 90.
Oh, 10 years. Ooh. Jack.
Thank you, Leader. First, let me commend the Leader for his great work, giving us the opportunity on the floor to pass a bipartisan piece of legislation. Let me also thank and recognize Senator Wicker, his staff. This was truly bipartisan. Through the committee markup, through the floor debate, we incorporated hundreds, literally, of amendments from, I think, the entire Senate. So this is one of those examples of working together and getting something important done. Our first priority was to take care of the troops. They will have one of the largest pay raises in many years, 5.2%, but also we concentrated on giving them the best platforms, the best weapon systems, the best technology we could. We've invested strongly in that. We have looked at every aspect of the spectrum, literally from cybersecurity to underwater platforms to land platforms to space, and we've tried to give them the advantage they need. One thing also, I think the leaders probably mentioned, we were able to include a fentanyl tracking legislation, which is absolutely critical. This is in stark contrast to the very partisan legislation we saw in the House, which focused more on a message than on the troops and the needs of the military. So I think we're ready to go forward now and to, on a bipartisan basis, we hope provide a final bill that we will all be extremely proud of, and more importantly, will help the men and women of the armed services. One of the things that motivates myself, the leader, and everyone else is we understand what we do here affects young men and women around the world who are risking their lives to defend this country. They deserve the best, we owe them the best, and we tonight tried to deliver the best.
Thank you. One or two for Jack. I'm finished with
Mr.
questions.
Chairman, can I ask, just in terms of the conference committee, the House, the House bill includes a provision that would rescind the DoD abortion travel policy.
Right.
How confident are you that you can get through the conference committee without that provision in whatever report that you end up, or whatever bill that you end up coming out of that committee?
Well, we were able here in our committee to have a vote on it in committee, and the vote did not pass. We offered the opportunity to our colleagues on the other side to entertain the legislation. They chose not to. So we're going into a conference with a position that the Senate basically has concluded that the policy of the Department of Defense is both legal and one that should be retained. And we're going to stick to that position. And I think we will prevail.
Now, look, just to repeat, I offered Senator Tuberville, I said if he offered the amendment, I would put it on the floor. He refused. Ask yourselves why.
Anybody else?
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Everybody, and we'll be working. I'm sure you'll be working, but still have a good break.
Any reaction to the Trump indictment?
The new Trump